That's lovely. Ukulele is not Banjo Threeie, and nor is Nuts and Bolts, and I'm glad of that. While Nuts was generally poorly received and Ukulele was mixed, there are many people out there that like these incarnations and have found enjoyment out of these games respectively, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, quality aside, I think it's fair to say that neither were true sequels to the main Banjo Kazooie series, and as they are rare as mascots, I don't think it's unreasonable to suggest that fans would have expected to see a sequel by now, particularly given the reaction to Banjo Kazooie joining Smash Bros, which to some may have once been seen as unprecedented. Although, interestingly, it apparently wasn't as difficult to negotiate this deal as one might have expected. As a big Banjo Kazooie fan myself, it was honestly joyous to see people react with such passion and excitement. Rare themselves were completely overwhelmed and humbled about the reaction. I made a video over a year ago now talking about the relevance and significance of E3 and the importance of bringing the fans together and letting them bask in nostalgia, wonder and passion for their beloved characters, worlds and experiences which harbour good memories, but there's a particular passion for Banjo Kazooie that runs far deeper than just nostalgia. After all, it harks back to the relationship between Rare and Nintendo, something which is still raw with fans today. Personally, I share the consensus. Their games, although still good, were just ripples and shadows of their former great selves, and nothing against Sea of Thieves, which is an absolutely stunning game, but it's not the Rare I know or remember. They're different now. Not bad different, just different, and maybe it would be okay if the evolution of the company had been more natural, but it wasn't. Some of the programmers left, including the founders, Tim and Chris Stamper, and it was very clear that the types of games that they were now making had changed. And Nuts and Bolts was a good example of this. Mr. Kirkhope of course delivered, but it was clear Nuts and Bolts couldn't hold a candle to its predecessors. And I'm just thankful they didn't label it Banjo Threeie. So, what's going on now? Will we ever see another true canon Banjo Kazooie game? Or is it a dead franchise by now? Hey, if Crash can make a comeback, then anyone can, right? Nothing against the old Bandicoot, of course, I just think the concept of the bear and bird was a lot more creative and better put together than Crash, which took one too many leaves out of Sonic and Mario's book. Banjo Kazooie is a wonderful franchise. The very concept of a mild-tempered, good-willed bear that goes on an adventure with a wisecracking, sarcastic bird that lives in his backpack to stop a demented rhyming witch is quite frankly pure genius. The levels were well crafted, visually beautiful, the music was triumphantly toe-tapping. The levels were wildly varied, interesting, and begged exploration. The whole package was an absolute joy and holds a very special place in my nostalgic memory. What made it particularly interesting for me was the whole stop and swap thing. I think the reason I found this so interesting was because Banjo Kazooie was so good at giving the player a sense of intrigue. Like, I wanted to explore every nook and cranny and discover what the world was all about. The games Kazooie and Threeie were both masterpieces, in my opinion. They had larger-than-life concepts, open worlds, a respectable difficulty level, and some unique and interesting level designs. Both games proved groundbreaking and the music was top-notch. The games were full of charm, wonder, excitement, mystery, intrigue, the controls were tight, the games were engaging and funny. When I play Banjo Kazooie and Threeie, I see just the level of hard work, energy, and passion that was put into them. The people that made these games really cared about them, and they're an honourable part of anybody's video game collection, because they're a staple of what good video games should be. Something that brings you into a world of imagination, something that challenges you and takes you on a journey. They felt immersive and wonderful. So when I saw a trailer for what would later be known as Nuts and Bolts, at the time, I got very excited. The trailer perfectly captured what Rare were good at, which was teasing secrets. Their very office used to be surrounded in mystery. The stop and swap eggs are another example. They used to send out Christmas cards with wrapped up presents on them, teasing stuff they were working on, and the trailer had a door that was locked up and couldn't be entered. It all seemed pretty perfect, to be honest, and at the time, there was absolutely no mention of vehicles at all. This looked very much like Banjo Threeie, and I had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. The graphics looked gorgeous, the orchestral music was fantastic, and a perfect homage to the old classic tunes. The wit and humour remained intact, but then there was the game itself. You see, when a sequel has the potential to be great and is sitting on the heels of a franchise that is fantastic, it is the highest level of frustration and disappointment when it's not. It happened with The Matrix Reloaded, it happened with Sonic 4, Mighty No. 9, Star Fox Zero, and countless others. Nuts and Bolts is objectively a respectable game. I can see why some people find it fun to make vehicles and some of the missions were enjoyable, but it's not what I wanted or expected. I didn't want to be in a vehicle the whole damn time. I didn't want to drive a rocket-powered trolley around the main hub world. I wanted a true sequel to Banjo Tooie. State your purpose, young lad.
It's visiting hours, isn't it? I'm here to see GP.
Ah yes, that weird floating brain thingy. Yeah, he's on the further shelf to the right, he is.
Right.
Banjo Kazooie is a wonderful franchise. It has so much creativity and charm, it is an absolute joy. I have so many fond memories of the original games that bring an instant smile across my face when I think of them. Kazooie's wisecracking remarks, the inventive mini-games, the catchy tunes, the crazy bosses, the exploration, the puzzles, the upgrades, the variety, the visual design, the difficulty level, and how the music transitioned from one area to another. Even the Jinjos were a delight. In an age where collectathons are mostly extinct, you would be forgiven for thinking that Banjo Threeie isn't a smart business choice to make, but I disagree. I think if done right, it's exactly what the market needs right now. We don't need a HD clone of an N64 age, we need a successor that takes the hallmarks of its predecessors and builds upon them. That's what Zelda did, and it's magnificent. Will Rare ever make Banjo Threeie? Yes, of course, and given the fact that they've now finished their hugely ambitious Sea of Thieves and people have made it abundantly clear their excitement they still hold for the Bear and Bird, then it's looking very likely indeed. You see, when I go back and I play through these gems, I'm reminded of what a video game truly is and what it should be. And Rare had, and still has, a charm. A charm where I can't help but smile. I hope one day we see a successor, but for now, all we can do is reminisce, and thankfully, the inclusion of Banjo Kazooie and Smash Bros. Gives us the opportunity to do just that.